You're listening to Open for Discussion, where, man, y'all probably shouldn't have said that. It tends to happen. Let's start the show.
715 East Music Group.
Welcome to Open for Discussion, where any and everything is on the table. I'm your host, Albert, and I got my brothers from another mother. I got my boy Diddy Rowe, a.k.a. Brian, or whatever else you want to say.
Yo.
Okay, man, I appreciate that. That's good stuff right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right on.
All right. Powerful.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah.
Out to the people.
Okay.
Woo. I got my boy Cleet the Geek.
Soul brother number one. Rest in peace, James Brown, Michael Jackson.
Oh, Lord.
All right.
Malcolm Martin. Marcus.
Yeah,
and my boy G.
I'm doing good.
W.E.B. Booker
Yo.
T. Long legacy.
All right, man. We got Black History Lessons prepared to you by Brian, a.k.a. Diddy Rowe.
But I told you stop using my government, bro.
Smooth out.
What are you doing, Cleet? What are you doing? Yeah, he sure did.
Go ahead. What's next?
What did you got, man?
I got nothing.
All right, thank you, man. So let's get the show started. Is that okay with you guys?
Hey, that's fine with me.
All right, man. Well, fellas, I would like to say that, man, we did it. We're number one. The state of Florida, at least, is number one, and this is a great accolade. Not really sure how far we should take this. But we are number one for pedestrian deaths.
Oh,
that's
sports teams.
Yeah, man.
Never something good.
Yeah. And a lot of you have experienced, the construction that seems to be forever ongoing. Ooh. If you've ever been in Florida and you've ever been on I-4,
my God.
I'm pretty sure that you experienced construction at some point in your life. It doesn't matter if it was 1997. As a young man moving up to Orlando, noticing that there is a highway project started in 1997.
What you lying?
And so far, it is 2019, and there's still construction on this same road. Now, that's not where, of course, that's not where the majority of the pedestrian deaths come from. But, have you ever been downtown Orlando? It's a little bit chaotic now, especially nowadays. You got the bikes. What is it? The Lime bikes. There's some other.
Oh, we actually have Lime here?
They have Lime bikes here, man. Y'all never seen the little green bikes downtown?
Downtown, yeah. Downtown Orlando.
I don't go downtown, but
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, they have the Lime bikes down there. A lot of foreign people.
Definitely that.
And I think that's where a lot of the problems are. But have you guys experienced anything that's chaotic or crazy downtown? Have you ever had any issues, especially when it comes to parking, people driving the wrong way down a one-way street?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man.
Past a certain time of night. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I used to go clubbing back in the days when I was in school. We were leaving the club one night, and just this car, in our downtown, you have a lot of one-way streets that if you're not familiar with the area, you'll get yourself in a whole lot of trouble.
Right there,
yeah. And so we were leaving, and we turned down a one-way street, and all we saw was headlights coming at us. And I don't mean headlights the club. I mean just full-on car coming full speed. And so I hit the brakes, and the car just still coming. So I'm like, all right, 2 more seconds, and we got to get up out of here, man. We just going to have to exit the vehicle.
La-da-dee.
But luckily, they hit the brakes, and then they stopped, and they realized that they were going the wrong way. But it's kind of chaotic. It's kind of ridiculous to me that so many deaths happen in just our area, and I'll go down a little bit of the breakdown of number one and why we're number one in the entire United States. Number one on the list is the Orlando, Kissimmee, and our hometown, Sanford area.
Well, that's just how they describe this area. They group everything together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then number 2.
Why is all these people
These are number 2 on the list of the entire United States. Number 2 is the Daytona and Ormond Beach area. Then you got Palm Bay, Melbourne, Titusville, Northport, Sarasota, and Bradenton. And number 5 is Lakeland, Winter Haven, and then number 6 is Jacksonville. So we did it, guys. We did it.
No, I didn't do anything. I never hit
do it this time.
Yeah, I don't think I've never hit anybody with my car.
Well, I hope not.
Well, I wouldn't.
I hope you wouldn't admit it.
No, I would, because I would never like hit somebody and then like drive away.
Yeah.
That's just like But there was someone yesterday. It was funny because I think it's equally responsible for the drivers as it is for the pedestrians, right? Because yesterday I'm going east on 46.
Pedestrians are stupid.
On 46, there's a gentleman who is riding his bicycle towards me. Right, so it's 4-lane highway, 2 lanes on one side, 2 lanes on the other side. I'm on the left lane. He is in the center. All it takes is him to like slip on his bike, and he runs directly into my car. Like
he hit your car?
No. I'm saying that's all it would take. He was trying to wait till my car passed and then go behind me. Right, but he's sitting there riding his bike in the center median when there's only a dotted line separating us and the other highway. So I'm just looking at this like, okay, well,
absolutely,
we're number 1. It's just not the drivers. The pedestrians are dumb too.
Oh, the pedestrians are majority of the problem. The majority of the time, they're the biggest problem. Have any of y'all ever got caught behind the cyclemania that be coming over here? Like sometimes here on.
I used to. It was a while ago because they go early in the morning.
Oh man.
Oh, the group.
You ever been caught behind them, RB?
Oh yeah. I'm sensitive to cyclists. My dad was a cyclist for a lot of years, so he would always, whenever we seen cyclists, he would always stop, be extra cautious, and so I observed that. So I have certain sensitivities to cyclists. So I try to navigate around them. With,
I have a sensitivity, except for when it's 67 of them,
bro,
and they drive up the middle of the lane, and they covering up the whole lane.
Yeah,
and they just riding up the regular highway. Just riding up the street.
I wish you would say something.
And you're like, bro, y'all think in your mind that y'all are going fast, but we just topping 20 right now.
They know they got the road. Better leave them alone.
We got the right of way.
We got
rights. They got rights.
Yeah, man, they do have rights.
Yeah.
But we need to reevaluate this.
I think I'm better than
they get
them.
Too brave.
It's the other people that's. I don't know. I really don't know much about this. It's terrible, man.
Well, the majority of it, man, to be honest with you, the majority of it stems from most downtown areas. And, in most downtown areas, you get yourself a little sloppy, get yourself a little, a little brazen, and you feel like, I'm just walk out in front of this car. They're going to stop.
It's terrible.
So I feel like the majority of it comes from, people partying downtown. Then I would go with... not necessarily. Area. Yeah, I would say tourists, not foreign. That I misspoke on that. It's mostly tourists, people coming from different areas, and they're not understanding the one way streets, and so they go down the wrong way. And then
we are the tourist capital of the world, so
big time.
That would kind of coincide with those numbers you're looking at. So that makes sense.
Yeah. It makes sense to me, but I just thought it was
stat.
That's what I was looking at. And I was like, man, when I saw the story, I'm like, wow.
We're number 1. We're number 1.
He was like, I don't know if we should cheer that. I don't know. But it was interesting to me to see that because, this is the area where our intelligent choice decided that we're going to raise our children. And we're going to raise our families. And just knowing that, okay, we're number 1 in that stat.
That's why we don't stay downtown.
Yeah. And that's why we're not walking the streets.
Yeah.
More importantly.
Now, back, when you think about it, back in the days, I would walk. In my little town that I was living in as a kid, I would walk 2, 3, 4 miles to a friend's house to go play football, and it was not a problem. Now, bro, we've talked about this before. I don't even let my kids really go outside in my front yard without me being able to
out there on the lawn chair, just looking
vigilant, bro.
You can't be doing nothing else either.
How y'all doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Seriously, man.
Yeah, you got to keep it. You got to stay on your toes, man, because it is people crazy.
It's a different world, man.
Well, a lot of it now is people on their phones, even though it's illegal. People driving on their phones, people looking at the GPS, people looking at
so much more distractions.
Oh yeah, way more. So nah, you ain't gonna find my kids walking on no street, and I don't even know if they're gonna be walking out on the street on the sidewalk.
I've been seeing these kids in my community, man. These kids about as young as my kids coming home from the bus stop. I'm like, dang, boy.
Yeah,
them parents. I couldn't do it.
It's funny because, bro, I rode the bus.
I did too.
I rode the bus. I walked to school.
Yeah, I walked to school in our community when I lived. When I was in elementary, it was you had to be within 2 miles in order for you to have to walk.
Yeah.
If you were outside of 2 miles, they would pick you up.
The bus, yeah.
We had to foot it, dog. We was like 1.988.
Yeah. Just like the edge.
We were just right now, man. So we had to foot it, dog. And I'm 9-10 years old, walking to school. And it was just by myself until my little sister got there, and me and her walked to school. And so I'm like, wow.
And it was dangerous. I mean, I was in 5th grade, and one of my homeboy, it was me, it was 3 of us walking. This dude from middle school walked up, saw his little gold, he had a little gold rope chain.
Oh, yeah, you from Miami, though.
Yeah. Ran up on him, put him in the chokehold, just snatched his chain. We just looking at him, leave him alone!
Leave him alone!
You can't do that.
He looked out, he said, I'll kill y'all. Y'all tell anybody. We're like, okay.
We're not saying anything.
Bro, we're petrified.
Be like, Rap, boy. I'm going to just tuck mine in. Debo coming.
So it was dangerous then, man. We get robbed and stuff.
Yeah, man.
We tell our parents, though, he said he was going to kill us. So
you know what I mean? Like, where you chain that, man?
Mom, that happened. And if you listen, that happened. I didn't tell you. I was scared. Yeah, man.
No, that's dangerous. Any of you guys ever been hit?
Yeah. So I'm one of them dumb pedestrians. I was legit. So okay, I used to have this bike, right? And I used to have to. I used to have these. I forgot how the brakes work, but I would have to.
Forgot how brakes.
What?
No, they were kind of jacked up. The brakes was messed up. They was messed up. So I had to I can't remember if I had to hit them early or if I had to hit them right when I needed to stop.
Yeah.
So, but I got used to the bike, so I would time it. So every time I go on my block, I would come on the block. If a car stopped, I stayed closer to the end of the block. So if a car stopped, a lot of times they would stop for like a half a second and then keep going. So I would time it, and I was always on my bike. So I would time as soon as they come in and they stop at the stoplight. Sometimes I wouldn't really stop because I know that they'll stop for a second and keep going. Man, I come around the corner, riding my bike. This dude I never forget, it was like a big old Suburban. And he pulled up to the stop sign, and this is an older dude. He actually stopped and waited. So I'm like, so he
I'm gonna get me one today, baby.
He just parked. I just slammed right to the side of his thing. Rah! I hit his car so hard. I just drove my bike right into the side of his car. Bro, I hit his car so hard I flew in the air. I had hang time. Of course. The ground. He goes, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then he realized I'm like an 8-year-old.
Just get on your bike and keep going, dog.
He's like, man, you okay? Get up. Man, my front tire was big. Bro, it was just dumb. I was just like, how did I stop? Why did I think he was going to move? Bro, he took me home to my mom, bro. He was fussing out. He's like, yeah, you need to watch your kid. Why? Bro, yeah, so I just telling this story. I'm like, yeah, there are some dumb people out there. You one on.
Yeah, man, I remember.
Oh, man. I had a friend of mine.
No, they're so stupid, man.
Yeah, we had just a basketball goal that you pull out to the front of your to the front of your house. Yeah. So basketball goal was in my house. Directly across the street from me was a friend of mine, and when I wasn't home, I think I was out of town or somewhere. My dad would let them, as long as he knew them, he'd let them pull out the basketball goal and start playing basketball. So on let's say the north side of the street, and it's like a standard highway, only 2 cars, one way either way, right? So north side of the street is where my house is, south side of the street where my homeboy's house is. So we were playing 21 tips, right? And in 21 tips, you have to continue
to
tip the ball in the air without touching the ground to get the ball in. You can jump as many times as long as you never hit the ground, so that the whoever person that shot it goes back to 0 if they didn't go in. So I had a friend of mine. He was a really athletic kid, and he's a basketball player. And we say the same thing that we always say. We say car. And everybody, when we say car, we just make sure quickly, let's get out of the way. Mm-hmm. Because, down south, people are crazy. They driving all fast. It don't matter. It's the neighborhood. They don't care. So everyone, when we says car, comes on to the north side of the street where the basketball goal is, where my house is. My friend who's tipping, he was like, all right, I'm going to be there in a second. And he's tipping. He finally gets it tipped in. He runs to the south side of the street at the very last moment. Now, as a driver, think about it. You're coming down and you see a bunch of kids over here to the left. You're going to think, let me go to the right.
Right.
But at the last minute, one special kid decides he wants to run to the opposite side that the car is going. And sure enough, he got hit in front of y'all. He hit my friend.
How embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean,
and kept going. Like, what are you doing, man?
The crazy thing is, he got hit. It was literally he got hit directly in front of his house, and he was shaking. His legs shaking. He's like, I'm all right. Like, bro, you should
have rolled over the car.
No, I'm all right. He didn't roll over the car.
Medical attention.
He was in the air. Right, wow. He got hit. He was airborne. It's only
So ended up he was breaking his leg.
No, he was fine. It was a
Florida grown.
Rubbermaid.
Don't get me wrong. He was sore for a few days, obviously, but he didn't have any serious medical issues.
Oh Lord!
Except for the embarrassment that all of us saw.
You're like, you big dummy.
It's like, bro, why didn't you just come over here with us?
Yeah,
all of us
everybody's
over
on one side.
He just went.
He won the day, I bet.
Now he did the squirrel move. You know what squirrels in the road?
You be like, dodge. You're like, should I go left? Are you going left? I'm gonna go right. Hold on. Nah.
I bet he tipped y'all all out, though.
Yeah, great. I'm gonna win this game.
That was worth it. That was certainly worth it.
We're gonna put that guy in the dumb category. He's a dumb pedestrian.
Yeah, they're out there, bro.
Yeah, man.
I know what.
Speaking of just being completely dumb, man, we're gonna go ahead and touch on it. Man, and I can't call the guy dumb, but I can say the situation is dumb because I don't know him personally. And the situation and the person that I'm talking about is the Antonio Brown situation,
let's
man.
Make an observation. We just talked about two guys, and they were from a certain part of the country. And this guy just happened to be
it's okay, man. From down south, man. From the Miami area.
Godly. So it tells a lot about what's going on here. I mean, hey, listen, we smart, too. We're the smartest people in the country now. But equally, we could be just about as dumb. So, yeah. Go ahead, man. This guy.
Hey, man, what are your thoughts on how the situation is playing itself out, and how and the way he's handling it himself? Just throw your feedback out there, man, and feel free to say whatever comes to your mind. Just no cursing.
Of course not. Dude, I mean, so it's kind of been up and down. This guy is crazy, man. I'll just put that out there.
That's Cleeton Dumbs.
That's so
wow, my whole government, huh?
Oh, man.
Oh, this guy. Nah, man, this dude, I mean, I say crazy, but obviously I only have what the media is showing me. So based off of what I got from the media, this guy, it looked like he was up and down, like erratic, just unpredictable with some of the decisions he was making. But then you see it all added up to him being at the Patriots. So it looked like it was all orchestrated. So I was like, dang, maybe not as crazy as I thought. But then all these allegations started coming out. So, I mean, man, it's it's tough, man. It's a lot. The biggest thing for me with any athlete is, character, man. A lot of these guys, they get exposed to so much at a young age. So much access, the amount of money that they're getting, it doesn't line up with the character that's needed with all of that attention and all of that access. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times unfortunately, it's a matter of time for some of these guys before these things start to happen, and a lot of times, the media likes to parade the black athletes around, but this happens to white athletes and any other race in the NFL and NBA, whatever sport. It's the reality of a young male or a young female getting exposed to all of this access of money and their character not matching it. So it's only a matter of time before this thing is going to, come to a ugly situation. So in his case, it's just another guy who, probably has a good heart, probably, has good intentions, but his character doesn't match his situation. And, instead of having people around him to kind of point him in the right direction, help him with those character issues, they come out, and they show the ugly head. So, yeah, man, it's unfortunate, but dude, those are my thoughts on it, man. This dude is kind of off, but like I said, it's only what media is telling us. So that's all I got to go off of.
Yeah,
bro. Now, I agree a lot with what Cleet said, man. I firmly believe that AB won't play again in the NFL. That's my position. At the end of the day, NFL is an entity. Their objective is to make money. And you can't damage your brand, especially in a society where there seems to be more of an awareness and a consciousness of the impact of sexual assault and sexual abuse towards women. So for the NFL to keep AB would be a horrific PR move. So the last straw was him sending the quote unquote threatening text messages to the second accuser, if we should call it that. My understanding of who she was, associate, was the lady who painted a mural for him. He came out, in some sexually suggestive poses, so to speak. I think they said he appeared to her in nothing but no clothes on, but a rag, over his genitals.
What was she supposed to be painting?
He supposedly painted her to paint a mural in his home.
Okay.
So from what I read, she was in his home, painting the wall, and he came out to where she was wearing no clothes and just covering his. Yeah, potentially. That's I mean, he could have literally just been coming out the shower, be like, "Hey, I'm just coming to check on you. Everything good?"
Because that's
what
how
we
you
do,
gotta
baby.
come and check on somebody.
Again, I don't know his intent. I don't think he's commented exactly on what transpired, but he didn't refute the fact that he came out that way.
Right.
And you leave it up to a person's interpretation as to how you just presented the situation. And I'm not trying to discredit her. It absolutely could have been sexually provocative. So, and she felt uncomfortable. And I think that's her right too. Definitely not trying to discredit her. But I think he's played his last game. I don't think that he will ever play again. I think if his objective was to continue playing, those text messages solidified his fate. I think it's not a coincidence that New England picked him up. You got to remember, New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft was indicted on prostitution charges.
Yep.
So it wasn't without merit. I thought that he went to New England because it's and for them to pick him up after that happened. Yeah, of course, Robert Kraft, due to a technicality, was able to get off those charges. But again, he was too damaging to the brand. And NFL was like, nah, bro, got to go. So I wasn't surprised that after the last occurrence that that he was released.
Yeah, did he get put on the exempt list? I didn't.
He didn't get put on it. He didn't get put on it yet.
Okay. You can't get put on it unless you're playing for an NFL team.
They're looking at it.
Yeah, it's no point. Yeah.
Go ahead, Doug.
No, that was it. Like you got to be on the NFL.
No,
team.
I was saying, go ahead. As far as what were you about to say about it?
Maybe go to the Dolphins.
Dolphins. That would be the worst place for him to land.
Yeah, because he's going back to Miami.
He's at home.
Oh man.
We'll protect him.
I mean, it's really unfortunate because Antonio Brown, I've been following his career since the very, very beginning. Since high school, because he was a standout receiver in Miami, which is
shout him out.
You want me to shout out the high school? Oh, he was a Miami Norland Viking.
There we go.
Okay.
Hey, just put Miami on. Why you can't?
I said he's a Miami high school. Anyway, but being a Miami high school standout isn't something.
He has no Miami pride.
No. Says the guy who won't be a fan of the Dolphins in the Heat. What? Anyways, let's
talk about
that. Boca Raton. Why you rap Miami like that?
This guy. Anyway, you're right. Let's just be clear. I'm a Miami fan through and through. Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Miami Heat, even the Liberty City Warriors. Like, look, I'm a Miami fan.
The Liberty City Warriors. Get out of here.
What? How many games they won last year? If you're a fan,
what
of the Liberty City Warriors?
I shouldn't be following the Liberty City Warriors.
Why not?
That's a park, man.
Do you know how many NFL players Liberty City Warriors have produced? Exactly. All right.
I played for them, bruh.
Yeah, you played. And then
I did.
I know you did, but what have you done for them lately?
Absolutely nothing.
Anyway. So let's just be clear here. I'm a really huge Miami fan, but being a standout Miami receiver isn't something that's uncommon in Miami. There's just so many ridiculous athletes, and unfortunately, they go through the filter of doing something wrong, doing something that their environment, I wouldn't say causes them to do, but does not provide the environment where they can make the best decisions. Right. They make wrong decisions, and then they're filtered out. Some of them go to college and fantastic, and they go on all the way to the NFL. Mm-hmm. But it's just not the truth for most people who come from Miami. Antonio Brown graduated, went to FIU, got in some trouble at FIU, then ended up, I believe it's Central Illinois, I think the college he ended up.
I think it was Central Michigan.
Central Michigan, okay. So Central Michigan, who's heard of that? Right, it's crazy, but because Mike Tomlin is probably the best evaluator of receivers in our lifetime. Just think about the receivers that the Pittsburgh Steelers have produced over the course of the past 10, 12 years, from Mike Wallace to Antonio Brown to Juju Smith-Schuster, Hines Ward. Hines might have been a little bit before.
Yeah, he was before.
But still, you're talking about like a guy who clearly knows his receivers. Now, he has been fortunate enough to have Big Ben, who is, arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of our time. Does have a couple of Super Bowl appearances and Super Bowl wins, and he makes plays. But ultimately, Mike Tomlin was at the helm during these times, and Mike Tomlin was the one who saw the talent at a place where someone was looking at his profile and was like, nah, we're not taking a chance on this kid. Mike Tomlin was like, yep, give him to me. And all of a sudden, Antonio Brown becomes a household name, seemingly overnight. Always had the talent, but the character was never developed. Like, never at any of these points was the character did he ever spend time developing character. And it's my staunch belief that the character, even people will say, okay, well, at Pittsburgh, he didn't really have any issues that we know of.
Right.
Mm-hmm. True. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, it didn't come out. And I think that's highly because Mike Tomlin, and that one of the best, if not the best African-American coach in the NFL, understands that. He understands exactly the system that he's in. And he protected Antonio Brown for what he was there, 9 seasons, I think he was there for. Eight or 9 seasons. Antonio Brown has the most TD receptions since 2010. I think it's like 73, 75 touchdown receptions since 2010. That is the most by any span during that tenure in the NFL currently. And guess what? He's had the same quarterback in the same team all of those years. So you would think, people are going to clue in. Antonio Brown needs to be guarded. No. Mike Tomlin would consistently come up with schemes, and honestly, Brandon Marshall brought up this point. A lot of Antonio's touchdowns come on broken plays made by Ben Roethlisberger. Not just on routes, but when Ben Roethlisberger breaks a tackle, goes out the pocket, throws the ball down the field. That's how Antonio Brown thrives. But anyways, with all that being said, he never took the time to work on his character, and Mike Tomlin protected him. His character was the same when he was in Pittsburgh. He's the same person. But once you come out and you start going against the quarterback, and don't get me wrong, Ben later on apologized and said, "Hey, look, I shouldn't have come out at Antonio like that," and it was true. Ben was wrong, and Antonio was wrong. But then Antonio's like, "trade me," and then we just see the character start coming out. trade me when he was at he does all the foolishness that he was doing at the Raiders, and then release me, and then he's running outside. Oh my God, I'm released! I'm so happy. Then New England signs this dude with a $9 million signing bonus, which I want to address in a second, by the way. And then they realize, and then this other stuff comes out. I end up finding out that a lot of these accusations weren't contingent upon him signing with the Patriots or signing with the Steelers. They were already in place. They gave this dude a deadline. And this dude did not meet the deadline. He was like, hey, we're going to go public with this if we can't find a settlement of some sort. And he did not meet the deadline. And that just seemed to coincide perfectly when he signed with New England. The issues then happened. And then from that point, ultimately, when New England says, look, I ain't got time for it no more, Bill Belichick had a 2-minute press conference. And all they said is, hey, Antonio Brown. And he was like, clear.
All right,
I'm going to tell you guys one more time. We want to talk about on the field stuff. I'm talking about it. I'm not talking about off the field stuff.
Yeah.
He walks away, and then that's just it. By the way, New England is looking to recoup that $9 million signing bonus because they said Antonio Brown violated a contractual agreement with New England. So
yeah, they're gonna get it.
Yeah, without a doubt, they ain't trying to let this man get $9 million and you only played one game for us.
Yeah.
No.
So
yeah.
That is the saga of Antonio Brown for me. And while I'm a huge fan of the player, I would like the person to become a bit better, especially when you're talking about these accusations where you're hounding people, you're asking your friends to do research online, research their family on their IG to dig up dirt. I mean, that's like, that's character development. I think Brian said it the other day. He was like, that's just poor character. We're not even talking about the on the field stuff. On the field, he's probably, if not the best wide receiver in the league, but off the field, you need to become a better person. I don't know if he plays again. I don't know who can you play for unless all this stuff comes out and he's acquitted. That's the only way I can see it. If he comes out, all of the stuff, he goes to trial and he's completely found like non-harmless, I think he'll play again. But unless that happens,
From my understanding, the first accuser only filed a civil suit.
Yeah,
right.
Nothing criminal, and not trying to damage her credibility, but to me, that's a red flag immediately. Sexual assault is not anything to be taken lightly, and for it to only be civil, that throws up a red flag to me. I question its legitimacy immediately.
Well, did you hear that there was a statute of limitations?
No, I didn't know. There was statute of limitations.
There was a statute of limitations.
Yeah, there was a statute why they couldn't.
Yeah,
because she went. I think it was 3 years in whatever state it happened in, and she was
Florida. It was Florida, actually.
Was it Florida?
I thought it was in she said it was something about college. I thought I heard that.
Well, her college, she went to.
They went to the same school.
LSU first, and then she ended up going to the same school. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was a statute of limitations for being able to file. I think because I could be mixing them up because there's
so many things
there's
out
something
there
in
right now.
Pennsylvania where I think that was where they couldn't charge her and the police couldn't. I don't know, man. It's just so much. Yeah. So you go ahead, finish your point.
No. That was it with the first accuser, and then I know there was the issue with the doctor.
Yeah.
When I read
in the doctor's face,
I was like, if I go to my physician right now, she's giving me an exam, and I start being so grotesque and demeaning, I'm farting all in her face, she will terminate the visit at that moment and walk out and probably restrict me from being her patient at that time.
Yeah.
Why did this doctor continue to perform this exam on him?
I can tell you, well, the doctor listed out their story, and because it was Antonio Brown.
Thank you.
Right? Mm-hmm. So
financial incentive.
Yes, there was.
There was.
He wanted to be on his team. So the doctor, I lend him no credibility. You had a choice.
Yeah.
You stayed there to get farted in your face because you wanted to be on his team at his promise, hey, I'm gonna put you on salary. So it was working to the doctor.
You haven't seen that?
Now all of a sudden it comes out, he was farting in my face, being very unprofessional. You made a choice.
Here's the funny thing about that, right? So I don't necessarily blame the doctor because the doctor, like you said, wanted to be on his team. The doctor didn't come out and say, here are my issues. Mm-hmm. They reached out to the doctor for comment for the Sports Illustrated story. Mm-hmm. And then he shared his experience. So I don't necessarily, because he already had a civil suit against Antonio Brown for some money that was going around. And it definitely was financial incentive. But I just think, again, it just speaks to the character. It's not like the doctor was like, oh, let me go ahead and get my piece of the pie too. Mm-hmm. They reached out to him for comment to get that.
But it served in his agenda, like I said, he does have a civil suit out. It served to prove that Antonio Brown has horrible character.
Horrible.
But then I mean, there's a litigation with a chef here in Orlando.
Yeah,
that he hired during Pro Bowl.
Oh man,
like
what? God,
he stiffed the man on the money that he's owed. So this all serves as
everything
character flaw.
No, yeah, this is character.
Yeah,
right?
this is,
telling people, I'm good for it. Yes, I understand that you're good for it, but I still,
need that money.
You catering people for the Pro Bowl. I mean, that's athletes coming with their families at this whatever house that they rented out here, and you pay this dude like, it's not like you ain't got the money. and honestly, think about it. Like that is just a mindset that comes from when you are in South Florida. It's poverty mindset. Like I got to keep all my money, So, I gotta check you out. It is funny because I won't say everyone who's done it because Chad Johnson is probably an excellent, or Chad Ochocinco is probably an excellent example. The guy who's come from Miami who has done extremely well, and his character shows. Right, he didn't go splurge. That dude saved like 90% of his money.
Chad is a beast, man.
From when he was in South Florida and never had anything happen like this. Never had anyone come out and be like, "Oh, Chad Johnson didn't."
Well, yeah, one little situation, but it was not.
Yeah, I mean, all you can really say about Chad was he was a diva. But I mean, that's what comes with the territory right now. That's the narrative that they have for, athletic, very athletic, and producing receivers. Starting from, the Jerry Rice era is over. Starting from T.O. all the way, from Randy Moss, T.O. on down. You've always seen that
there's always
the star receiver at some point is going to lash out and is going to be demanding. And
you don't see that with Julio though, not really.
No, Julio is an exception.
Larry Fitzgerald.
To your point, majority of them.
These are like
Larry
exceptions to the rule, bro. Like every other player is literally.
What about Hopkins? Hopkins good.
Exception. But I think
he's eccentric.
He is, but he's not. He's never going to be like, I need the ball more. You know what I mean? He's gonna. I'm gonna play my. If you throw him the ball, he's gonna catch it 99.9% of the time.
Throws, man.
He didn't miss a pass last year. I heard.
Yeah, he didn't last year. I think he's already missed one this year. But
that one pass the whole season. That's crazy.
No, he's disgusting. I mean, well, let's just be real. Larry Fitzgerald crawled so DeAndre Hopkins could run. So I don't want to ever like Larry Fitzgerald like all around. It's like probably one of my favorite receivers of all time. He didn't get the accolade, but
man.
This
human
just,
and life in general, man. He's one of the greatest.
So most of those guys will be like, you don't really hear about them, so they don't get that attention because they
ain't causing no trouble.
Yeah, and then I pounded my chest saying, "You need to get me the ball." And don't get me wrong, it's football. There needs to be an element of that, but I think it's just it goes to when it goes. And Dominican too, when he was at the Miami Dolphins, he gave an interview to his character. People were like, "Oh, this dude sucks." He was like, "Listen, between these lines, he's like, I'm an animal. Like I'm in a cage. You are putting me here to destroy. So I'm not here to be anybody's friends. Now outside, this dude is friends with Warren Buffett. You know what I mean? Like, and very Warren Buffett speaks to his character. Yeah. So, but they didn't. In the line, all you heard is about Dominican was like, "Oh man, he's a dirty player." It's like, "Hey guys, we play football, okay?
We're not supposed to be.
We're not supposed to be."
For the record, I've always loved dirty players because I think the title is non-descriptive of what we're asking them to do. What's dirty? Yeah. It's like somebody saying somebody fights dirty. No, I'm fighting to win.
I'm fighting.
It's a fight.
Now,
did we outline the rules before we started fighting?
It's like, okay, hey guys,
we ain't got no referee. This is a fight.
But the only thing I would say to kind of amend that, I share the same sentiments that Brian does, is like when people perform what I consider cheap shots, right? When we're not engaged, and let's say a quarterback, he just threw the ball, he's looking down the field, somebody comes and hits him from behind, like super hard, like the ball been gone for like 5 seconds and you hit him. That stuff is like, again, that speaks to people's character. It's like, dude, you're not engaged right now. Like the play has been blown dead. And maybe not just quarterbacks. If someone over the middle of the field, you're launching at somebody a quarterback that just slid feet first, and you're launching at his head. Okay,
See, those are rules that were put in place. So if you start going outside of the defined rules, then I can consider you a dirty player.
Right.
Because
right.
if you're, like you say, if you're hitting after the whistle, those are the rules. The rules are,
but the rules change, so it's a little bit. It's tough because one year
slightly.
It's roughing the quarter. 1 year you're jumping on the quarterback and sacking him, and this year that's roughing the quarterback. So it's a little.
See, that's not outside of the rules. The rules are up to interpretation at that point. When you're hitting a quarterback and they have to go to the film to review it, I can't consider you a dirty player because you're just making a
you're
tackle.
doing your job. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, if you're picking up a quarterback and slamming him on his head, you've known that's been the rules for a few years now, multiple years. Yeah, listen, we can't do that anymore.
But I mean, the rules will be bent and be flexible. I just want people not to. People who are performing cheap shots and things like that, I think that speaks to their character more than anything else. This is competitive, and we're not supposed to be friends by any means. But at the same time, let's not try to kill people or do things that we wouldn't want done to our quarterback. You know what I mean?
Cool. Well, the thing I have with Antonio Brown, man, is I think he will play again. I don't think it will be this year. I think if he goes into intensive rehabilitation, whether that's speaking with a psychologist or getting the help that he needs, learning how to manage his finances, getting a better team surrounded with him, because I've always said, and this is something that I'll always say for the rest of my life, money doesn't change a person. It only enhances who they really are.
Correct. Magnifier, yep.
And so I just believe that, he was hit with a lot of money because he had character flaws, before he got to the NFL. His talent, undeniable, but his character has always been a question mark. And until he gets the help that he needs, as far as he needs a year out of the league to, sit down and realize that, look, this can be taken away from you. We don't care how talented you are, but we're just letting you know that, you will never play here again if you don't straighten up these flaws. So I do believe that he'll have another chance, but until he gets the help that he needs, that money is always going to be a driving force into him making poor decisions and amplifying his poor character. Now, on the subject of money, I want to briefly discuss it. I don't want us to linger on it too long because we're still waiting to see the effects and what happens. But on the money tip, they're finally discussing paying the NCAA players for their contributions to the universities. And I just want to, like I say, a quick take on, what do you think should happen? And how are your feelings about, I think it's California and Florida, and I think one other state.
New York.
Is it New York?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are three huge producers of whether it's, basketball, football, talent. They've already put the discussion, and I think California has already passed it, and they're just waiting for it for the governor. Could be the same thing with New York, but what are your thoughts on that? And what effects do you think will come from it?
This has been long overdue.
I was about to say,
I am a fan,
big time,
of these gentlemen, these athletes, ladies and gentlemen, being compensated due to the simple fact that the reason they are at these universities is not for educational purposes. Mm-hmm. They are there because they have shown exemplary athletic abilities, and these teams believe that they can help them achieve the goal of winning an NCAA championship. That's why they're there. They're not there on academic scholarships. They are there on athletic scholarships. The reason athletics are so vital to schools because they provide so much revenue for schools.
Yes, they do.
The NCAA is a monopoly, and from a perspective of a pipeline of becoming a professional athlete, this is the primary vehicle for basketball, for football, especially. So those two sports. Baseball, you can actually go into a minor league. You can go straight from high school, so it's not as restrictive as the other two. And so in any other facet of industry, we would categorize that as a monopoly, and we try to invoke antitrust laws to break that up. Yeah. But for some reason, the NCAA has been this this ambiguous entity that somehow we can't seem to bust. So, man, I'm a huge fan of it, and I looked up a stat which I thought was pretty interesting. So in 2017, total revenues of the NCAA were in excess of $1.06 billion.
This is all sports?
Yes, with Division I basketball, television, and marketing rights generating $821.4 million. So March Madness is...
Wait a second. Sorry. So, I mean, that number, that NCAA number, that has to be only one sport, because there's no way that the rest of the sports only generate 120-something million.
They said in excess of 1.06 billion. That was a baseline that they could...
But that's a small baseline.
Oh, absolutely.
If 821 million is coming from basketball and March Madness alone.
Exactly.
Holy God.
Imagine the girth of how much this entity is making and how little you're giving to the people who made you this money.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, these after they leave, they are not compensated for any type of health or medical conditions.
Not at all.
They're restricted in their ability to even work and maintain a living. And I think Tim Tebow came out with this video that went viral. I believe he was on First Take. He was very passionate. Like, they're ruining the purity that's in college sports. What purity is in college sports? The purity left when the NCAA and these big schools started paying these blue chip athletes to come to their institutions.
Yeah.
That created a huge imbalance in the level of talent. Even before that, you had segregated institutions. So there was never a purity. There was never a purity. And so we've got to remove ourselves from this fallacy or this fantasy that somehow, hey, this is the purest form of sports. In reality, it's not. It's purer than the NFL in a regard, but at the end of the day, there are still imbalances within the NCAA, which is why the University of Florida, the University of Miami, Florida State University have a leg up in the athletes that they generate in comparison to Bethune-Cookman University. Again, now there may be some unforeseen consequences down the road. This may, paying athletes may lead to a consolidation of talent even greater than it is now. That very well may be the case. I don't know how it's going to play out, but the good part is it's malleable. We can, if we see some unforeseen issues that arise after these athletes are paid, we can amend it. This doesn't have to be this one decision that's fixated and is permanent, and we can't make amends moving forward. No, start off with paying them.
Start them.
And when we come up to issues, let's readdress them. I think that has to be the narrative. Hey, look, this isn't an end all. Let's come up with a strategic way as to how we can make this work. But these athletes, men and women, deserve to be paid. That's my take.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't have much to add to that. I mean, they were trying to make it seem like, through the scholarship they would be, compensated or whatever. But any of us know, we have friends in college. They say, man, I only covered room and board. Like, they were starving athletes. So I think it's long overdue. I second everything Brian said. And, and to the point he was making, like, these people are risking their physical bodies, to play this sport, and a lot of them who don't make it to the professional level, they're left with these injuries and things like that, and they have much to show for it. So, at least be able to professionally get represented while you're in school, and now you can take that and make something out of that. Now you have this agent, you played on the collegiate level, now you can kind of take and make a business out of that. Become a trainer, become a trainer, in the sport that you played in. There's so much more that can come out of this. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Cool, man.
Yeah. Paying NCAA players is something that has to be done. What my concern is what Brian said, is the further consolidation of talent, which makes the overall sport of NCAA less competitive. Last night, the number 10 ranked team lost to an unranked team in USC, and that can only really happen in college, right? Like, you look at the NFL right now, who's beating the top 10 teams? Like, we say any given Sunday, but at the end of the day, like, these teams that go out and are that pay the money for the college, or they have the best coaches, or they have the best this and that, they have the best quarterbacks,
best facilities,
right? Like, they are top performers, right?
This is why we love March Madness.
Right. Because it's like, and don't get me wrong, I the only sentiment of Tim Tebow's that I agree with is that, and Brian kind of amended it better than I could have, it is a purer form of the sportsmanship, right? Because most of these kids, once they're on the college campus, they're not holding out their whole senior year for a payday, right? They're not really thinking of, okay, let me not put my body on the line or put my all on the line because I got to think about next year.
Colt McCoy did.
Now, look, this is funny because there is a shift happening over the past, let's say, 5, 6, 7 years in college when people say they get a bowl season and it's like, nah, bro, I'm done.
This is probably why this is happening because there's already been a shift in that direction. So they're like, we need to pay these guys.
Well, I think that if you look at the people who've already produced legislation, they're not looking at that. What they're looking at is like, okay, we want to get better. What's the states? California, New York, and Florida. Okay, cool. Why is New York prevalent? Because of basketball. Not necessarily football. Basketball. Why is Florida doing it? Football all day long. We cannot afford for our athletes to be going to other states to play. No. We bred them. Oh, no. Y'all gonna stay here.
We don't have any Ivy League institutions in Florida.
Not a one. Look, we got Rollins.
That's the Harvard of the South, baby.
That'd be Vanderbilt.
But and then you got California. Like, come on. And honestly, the as you start to see the bigger programs who have 3 or 4 schools in their state, they'll start to produce it. The ones that only have one, they're not going to be able to afford, or they're not going to say they can afford to do it. And then what starts to happen is literally, the NCAA gets flipped on its head because players are playing for money, which is crazy. But look, I'm okay with it because I knew college players growing up or college players when I was in college, and they couldn't get paid. Now, on that same note, I worked in a compliance office at a Division I institution, okay? And there were several athletes from every day who walked in and were talking about what they were going to buy with their checks as they came, because they came into compliance to pick up their checks, right? For, their scholarship money, right? So what does compliance mean? Oh, we're going to make sure that they are focusing on doing this. We're going to give them money. Hey, let me have a meeting with you. Check.
Whatever, but
boom.
Wild or not.
And that was happening a lot. Like, you would have people come in saying, yeah, man, so them J's just came out, man. I can't wait to get my check so I can go to the mall. And then we would have some officers would be like, you're going to go buy what? Oh, I'm going to go buy groceries. Now think about this, right? An athlete is walking into the compliance office talking about
completely dumb
doing things non-compliant. I mean, but that's going to happen a lot. You're going to see that happen like rampant because, again, these kids aren't getting character developed at this point. They're kids who you just gave, let's say they get 10 grand, right? You just gave a kid 10 grand who just came from the hood, who he never had nowhere near 10 grand, and they're not going to have the right character. So what the NCAA should do, just like the NFL is starting to do, before that these people are getting all that money, they're making them go through symposiums. They're making them go through training on how to handle your money, what you should be spending money on, and really painting the picture of financial success as they start to accrue this money. Because NCAA makes way too money. $821 million on March Madness. I don't even want to think about what bowl season produces because football is immeasurably higher revenue profit center than basketball is. It's just insane. But with football, it's the leadership keeps all the money as opposed to it trickling down. But so when that does happen, and we're talking about the money that gets produced for these kids, because the kids, their likeness is being used in a lot of cases to promote. When you see a University of Central Florida ad, do you see the players? And it's like, bro, I see what's his dude, Gabriel? What's his name? Not Tyler Gabriel.
Gabriel, the quarterback.
Is it Daniel Gabriel? Or?
I don't even know his
Gabriel,
name.
Right? So
I just know it's Gabriel and Gabriel.
Yeah, Gabriel. The other guys, Gabriel is his first name. The quarterback, Gabriel's his last name. But this dude is balling out, and all of a sudden, you go to UCF's website. What do you see? You see him, right? Because he is balling, and it's like, this dude ain't getting a dime for this. Not to mention, let's go ahead and go back a little bit. All that Mackenzie Milton did for the University of Central Florida. All that he brought University of Central Florida on the map, like the real map. What is he getting? Oh, you get treatment, bro. We'll help you out. Come on. Like,
that's crazy.
This dude should be set for the rest of his life for all that he gave.
Scott Frost got paid, though.
Scott Frost certainly got paid.
Straight up.
And is still getting... Actually, Nebraska took care of the remainder of Scott Frost's contract for him. So that he didn't have to be in debt. And then on top of that, Nebraska paid this dude a ridiculous amount of money for the next 5 years. So is it? I don't want the money to go to from the coaches because I think the coaches deserve it too. But the players have to be compensated. But we need to make sure we pay attention to this so that we're not setting our kids up to fail.
I'm curious to get Bert's take. He was a D1 athlete, played at one of these institutions as a scholarship athlete. So I'm curious to get your take. But first, I do want to address this narrative that's going out. Like, these kids who are on these teams all come from the inner city, and so their parents are struggling back home, and they need this money. That's not the case for all that.
Yeah,
let's just stop.
I'd say 60%, but not everyone.
Yeah, exactly. That's not everyone. Because now we put this, we lump all these kids into this category that if you're a black athlete or minority athlete, and you somehow playing D1 ball, that you come from poor roots or poverty-stricken circumstances. It's not the case,
right?
So I just want to correct that narrative aside there. But Bert, I'm curious to see your thoughts on this.
Man, my thoughts are, of course, being an athlete at UCF and playing, I played football and the one, it's the devil. But one of the things that we used to get the little $500, and I say little. Not in a disrespectful way. I'm just saying, we got $500, and the thing about compliance, as Dub was saying, is that we were only supposed to use that for clothing. Now, no, they didn't physically give you the $500. They would tell you, these are the stores that you had credit at. So it was Burdines. I think it was either Foot Locker or Athletes. I think it was Foot Locker, Champs, and then we had Walmart. So you basically would get $500, but that was for the entire year. So it wasn't like each semester you got $500. So you got a certain amount. Yeah. You had to figure it out. You better get your draw supply and then figure out the rest from there.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, that was it. We got housing and we had
meal plan, right? Yeah, the meal plan, right? Yeah.
We had a meal plan, but the meal plan would only cover up to a certain time. So when the cafeteria closed at I think it was 7 or 8. Yeah, it was 8 o'clock. They would, that was it. So anything after that, and then even on the weekends, you had to pretty much find your own food. So a lot of times, my parents would, send me a little bit of extra money. But my mom and them, man, they $10, buddy.
That
go ahead, Clete.
No, I was going to say, so let me ask you this. So, in lieu of this, what would you have done had you had the opportunity to be paid? How do you think your college experience would have been different?
It would have been out of control. I would have been a complete idiot.
This is not helping the argument.
No.
This
is definitely not. But I definitely 100% agree with Dub saying that they have to have some type of symposium and make it mandatory, and there's going to have to be checks and balances. And I'm 100% for getting paid because, being myself as an athlete, I had in the same year, which was probably my worst year in college, in 2000, I had an emergency appendectomy in February, and then I ended up getting back on the field I had surgery in February. I was in the spring game in April with stitches in my stomach, in my navel, and then they had a slit above my right into my mid rib cage. So I was I'm basically risking my life at that time. So I ended up going. I started the season, first game against Georgia Tech, tore my ACL. This is the same year. God. So then I'm getting surgery again in October. So now I've missed an entire year. So, And the reason I'm bringing that up is because today my knees are shot. So these athletes, these kids are putting their life on the line. They're risking the health of their body. So there's no reason that they shouldn't be paid. Now, with that, I do believe that there should be some type of there's going to have to be some type of
regulation.
Regulation as far as how much these athletes are getting paid, and I think there should be. I think there should be some type of regulation to where a certain amount of that they're going to put in the savings for you to start some of these kids up on the savings plans. Just like when you have the option a lot of times when you're at your jobs now to, put into the 401. I think it should be mandatory because a lot of these kids, they're not, even if you come from money, you're giving a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid a lump sum of money at a time and saying, hey, be responsible with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Think about the NBA. At one point, people were coming right out of high school. Yeah. So it's a lot of regulation that has to be done with this. And I was just reading, very similar to like the NBA players who come out early. The way that they're looking to do it in these states is representation, like people having agents and being able to
they can get endorsements.
Right.
And
so it's not like it's coming through the school.
Right.
This is coming through someone basically being an agent and representing you and shopping you through the different schools, and then you having a whole compensation from that. So, I mean, it could get ugly. It's literally creating a whole new industry, basically. It's not necessarily a new industry because it's already going on in basketball, but it's expanding that to the other sports. And there's a whole lot of risky stuff happening in NBA. So it could happen everywhere else. So
that's why I feel like there should be there has to be some form of regulation because in the fear of stockpiling. Where a team like Alabama, they have so much money. Then you have USC who has so much money. Texas has so much money. And then you got a team like Central Michigan, or you have Northern Illinois who they're Division I teams, but they don't have as much money. So it's going to be a whole lot easier for a representative of, say, when Julio Jones was at Alabama, for an agent to come in and get him more sponsors and more endorsements. So I think that there needs to be regulated to say, okay, look, this is the amount that you can cap at, and we can go from there. So, but paying these guys it's the number one thing. That should be the forefront. It should be passed with flying colors. And again, like Diderot said, it's not going to be the end all be all, but reevaluate it as the time goes on. Put it at a 2-year reevaluation, 5-year reevaluation until you get until you find the perfect formula, because it's too risky for these college athletes. I mean, even women's soccer. These girls are getting major concussions. They're blowing their knees out. So it's not like it's just football and basketball. There's several athletes that are putting their life on the line while the college itself makes billions of dollars yearly while they're sitting down and they're trying to figure out what they're gonna they're looking for hourly jobs when they graduate. And that shouldn't be the case. And that's my take on it, man.
Yeah.
So
pay the athletes.
Yeah, the moral of the story is pay them guys because they paying you.
And girls.
Pay them guys and girls. I say guys as a whole.
Yeah.
And just, treat the people right, man. If you're making so much money, so what? A tiny, literally, you would be paying, you would lose maybe 2% of your entire wealth over the next few years. So, just do what's right, man. Stop having these kids living a pipe dream thinking that, you're getting your school funded and that should be enough. It's not. Let's be realistic. It's not. So we're going to leave it at that. For me, my boy Diddy Rowe, my boy Cleet the Geek, my boy G Dub. We out, man.